帰らないのか。置いていかれるぞ。戦友の墓か。
いいえ、イシュバール人の子供です。
帰ろう。戦は終わった。
私の中ではまだイシュバールの戦いは終わっていません。いえ、一生終わらないでしょう。
That's long-term guilt.
あなたを信じ、父の研究を託したのは私。償い切ることなどできません。お願いがあります、マスタングさん。私の背中を焼いて潰してください。
そんなことできるわけ。
せめて償えないのなら、せめて新たな炎の錬金術師を生み出さぬように、この背中の秘伝を破壊したいのです。戒めを解いてください。父が私に背負わせたものから、錬金術から私を解放してください。
できるだけ跡が残らないように焼こう。
I've seen it, right? Yeah, they showed it at one point. Oh. Okay, let's find out then.
何の真似だ、注意。誰に向かって銃を突きつけている。
誰に笑わせないで。
Hawkeye don't miss.
二人っきりの時、大佐は私のことをリザって呼ぶのよ。あんたらそういう仲かよ。嘘よ。
Yeah, I was trying to think back to
引っかかっ
moments.
てくれてありがとう。
Hawkeye don't miss. Ooh. Yeah, but this is almost a mercy, right? Because Hawkeye knows Mustang is in. Look at her. She's trying to be really quick about it. Oh. Yeah, I'm just gonna say if Mustang sees this. Yeah, look at that. Framing of this.
私の大切な部下に何をする。
Look at the fear. It's as if she's seen a demon. There's no escape. He's not gonna let you finish saying anything. Cool. Oh man, I mean the animation is stunning. Jeez.
それが貴様の本体。醜いな。嫉妬とは醜いものだな。
How human, right?
私の視界から
Don't want to die. There it is. She-
何の真似だ、注意。
This time for real.
あと一撃で終わる。銃をどけろ。
承服できません。手を下ろしてください。
ふざけるな。どけろと言っている。
Okay. Showed up. Oh, Scar came too.
鋼の。そいつをよこせ。
Just look at the eyes.
断る。
He looks like a man possessed. Look at him. Hold strong, my dude. It's scary, but
そいつをよこせ。さもないとその右手ごと焼くぞ。上等だ。ガチで勝負してやるよ。けどその前にてめえの面よく見やがれ。んな面でこの国のトップに立つつもりか。
Lord.
下の者がさらに下の者を守る。小さな人間だ。
It begins at the top,
それくらいはできるはずだ。
Mustang.
劇場に任せ。畜生の道に落ちるか。それもいいだろう。復讐に生きるというのなら止めはせん。
Go on, Scar. Hold on.
俺に他人の復讐を止める資格はない。
But
ただ憎しみにとらわれた者が人の上に立ちどんな世界を作るのか見ものだなと思うだけだ。
だからといって奴を生かしておくつもりもありません。私が片付けます。
やっとだぞ。やっと追い詰めたんだぞ。
分かっています。でも今あなたがやろうとしていることは国のためでも仲間を助けるためでもない。憎しみを晴らす、ただそれだけに蝕まれているあなたはそちらに落ちてはいけない。
Go on, man. Think back to the reason you started this crusade in the first place. Oh. Yeah. Gather yourself. He'll snap out of it.
私を撃ち殺した後、君はどうする？
私一人のうのうと生きていく気はありません。この戦が終わったら狂気をもたらす炎の錬金術をこの体もろともこの世から消し去ります。
それは困る。
君
を失うわけにはいかない。子供に怒られ、私を仇と狙っていた男に諭され、
No one's above it, my friend. No one's above it.
君にまた辛い思いをさせてしまった。私は大バカ者だ。すまなかった。
綺麗事並べてさ、人情ごっこかい。
This
シス
guy.
が走るマスタング大佐、忘れてない？スカーはあんたの命を狙ってたんだよ。
It's tough not to.
確か
So
ち
cute.
びさんの幼馴染の両親を殺したのもスカーだったよな。
Still up to the old tricks.
お前もイシュバールであれだけ同胞を殺された憎しみはどこ行っちゃったのよ。憎んで泣いて殺し殺され、のたうちもあれよ。はいつくばれよ。仲良く手繋いでなんて
I feel pity. They all feel pity as well.
なあおちびさん、なあホークアイ、マスタング、スカー。
Wow.
なんでだなんでだなんで。
お前人間に嫉妬してるんだ。人間はお前らホムンクルスよりずっと弱い存在のはずなのに、
They persevere.
叩かれてもへこたれても道を外れ倒れそうになっても何度でも立ち向かう。周りが立ち上がらせてくれる。お前はそんな人間が
But
羨ましいんだ。
Ed has a lot of pity at the moment.
少し考えりゃわかることなのにさ。人間って本当愚かだよね。
Wow.
無駄なことに命かけちゃったりしてさ。
I have chills right now, man.
屈辱だよ、こんなボロ雑巾みたいになって。あんたが人間にクソみたいな存在にいいようにやられて、よりによってそのクソの中でもさらにクソみたいなこのガキに、このエンディがこんなガキに理解されるなんて屈辱の極みだよ。
Oh.
バイバイエドワード、エルリング。
Wow. I'm floored.
これよりここは私が取り仕切る。セントラル兵士の勇猛さを私に見せてみろ。
Sloth's right in.
なんだっけ。女将軍殺す。
Shogun.
捨ておけ。我が弟はあれ好きでくたばるような鍛え方はした。少佐。
That's some uppercut. Ah, he used him to pop it back in. Oh, look at this. Woo, the animation. Fighting style. Sure is, sure is. Anytime the sentence gets cut off, he knows something's about to happen. Buccaneer.
市街市に向けて発砲するだとそれもラジオで流してもらおうかその装備はブリックスのどうやってここに
ああ元中央司令部勤務でちょいと記憶力のいい男がここの位置を的確に覚えていてなあとは市街地からここまでの地下道を一人で掘ってくれた人がいたんだよ
誰だと聞かれりゃ主婦だと名乗る
ああ、
私の作法だが今日ばかりはあえてこちらを名乗らせてもらおうか錬金術師だ
Oh, they're about to meet. Man, I just got really sad just seeing Hohenheim. He said he's coming. There he is.
一人かあの兄弟を連れてくるかと思っていたぞ追い倒したガキを叱るのに何人もいらないだろうフラスコの中の小人ホムンクルスよ
Oh man. Yeah, he's connected.
の一部を与えてくれた奴隷23号よ今度は私の体の一部となるがよい
Wow. Love that approach. Okay, episode 54, folks. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was good. That was good. I mean, that's an all-timer, isn't it, for this anime and just anime episodes in general. I mean, you know, I think this episode actually could be in the conversation for potentially the best episode of the series altogether up until this point. Now, I'm not saying that it is definitively the best episode of the series, but it is in that conversation, right? Alongside a handful of other episodes. It was that good. And the thing is, it just keeps going and going, right? It cuts into the ending time slot, essentially. But I think the use of the ending score, the new ending that kind of kicked in a few episodes ago is just brilliant. Brilliant in this episode. Beautifully utilized. And then, of course, the ending itself is so fitting, isn't it? To me, it felt really quite fitting. You have the dwarf in the flask and slave number 23, Hohenheim, meeting up once again after perhaps hundreds and hundreds of years, right? Essentially. Something about that just felt so perfect to me, you know, because it kind of did begin with these two individuals, right? And, you know, of course, one of the sins, the prominent sin that I do say goodbye to in this episode, envy, is father's envy, right? It's a dwarf in the flask's envy of humans, or certain parts of humans, at least, right? But yeah, as you could tell, I'm really quite attached to Hohenheim and his story and, you know, the potential conclusion to his story. I mean, I got really quite emotional just seeing him by himself down there. You know, just him on screen had me really quite sad, especially given the fact that it is in the final phase of the story now, right? It's getting to that point that I'll be seeing his ending, essentially, Hohenheim's ending, you know, an ending to a story that's kind of been playing on off screen for hundreds and hundreds of years, right? So I felt the impact of that in that moment, and it just really hit me like a truck all of a sudden, you know? Damn, you know, I'm getting that man, I'm getting that feeling in my throat as I'm speaking of this, you know, that tightness, the lump in the throat. And I love his responses to father. I don't need anyone else to chastise a bad little boy, right? Dwarf in the flask, homunculus. And then, of course, there's a bit of striking imagery on display as well, right? It's not the most subtle, but it's still quite fantastic nonetheless. I'm speaking of father's image kind of being reflected through that flask. Striking, really quite striking. In that sense, there's a lot of moments in this episode that are not the most subtle. Perhaps you could argue they are a little bit on the nose, but the thing is, they are still so effective, so impactful, right? A lot of the moments in the whole, Mustang, and Riza, Hawkeye, Ed, and Scar scene, Envy as well. But yeah, I'm dying to get to the next episode. Really, I'm really quite excited for the follow-up to this scene, this cliffhanger scene, essentially. It's actually not left as a cliffhanger scene. It's just kind of like a definitive moment. Like I mentioned, this faithful meeting. And now, let's see how they kind of engage from this point on. Yeah. And again, I love the use of the ending score, right? At one point, it just goes black screen and it kind of just keeps playing. I love that. But yeah, you see that there's so much that they kind of have to get to that now it is kind of cutting into the actual ending itself. So maybe I'll see this a few more times. Maybe I'll see this for the rest of the series, the final 10 episodes. But also, that being said, I've noticed that these are beginning to get claimed more so than before. And it's because of these songs. I'll have to be a little bit careful. So yeah, just a heads up, I might have to mute certain segments, certain songs, if they do kind of end up giving me some issues. And then of course, right before this, you have the Armstrongs, right, fighting Sloth. The fight continues. It looks like it still hasn't ended. Right? It's going to continue into the next episode as well, but I love seeing Alex, right, get in there. Quite resourceful, used Sloth's momentum to kind of place his arm back into its socket, right, put it back into position. And then he really, really unleashes, doesn't he? I loved the detail, his fight stance, his boxing fight stance. He's just so impressive, isn't he? Right? He's certainly quite trained. That's for damn sure. And, Olivier knows this. At one point, she tells the men, "No, back up. He knows better. He's been trained better than to die in this manner," right? She was so sure of it. And I love seeing her reaction to Alex kind of jumping back into the fight. And then also you've got her soldiers from Briggs, Buccaneer breaking in as well, and the rest of the men, Fallman, and this other dude. And then, of course, the housewife, who this time claims to be an alchemist, right? For once, she's claiming to be alchemist. It's a lovely moment, of course, to see Azuma Sensei as well, playing a major part in this, kind of helping them get in. But yeah, also, there you have it. There is yet another of the intended sacrifices, perhaps, at Central. Just in the exact place Father needs them to be, or needs her to be as well. And of course, that includes Ed and Al, and you've got Hohenheim, who's there now. Still the fifth. And, the fifth potential important candidate is essentially the major focus of this, right? Though that being said, I actually do think that Hawkeye is the central focus. Or that she is one of the standouts of this episode, right? Let's kind of go all the way back to the cold open. My goodness. I mean, this isn't the first time I get to find out about her, take on all of this. The immense amount of guilt that she carries at all times because of her part in Ishval and her part in facilitating the flame alchemy, right? To her, it feels like this is something she can simply never atone for because she made the choice. She made the choice to share that information, to share that research. That was essentially forced upon her because ultimately I do feel that she was objectified by her father. It's not as if her father was teaching her alchemy or teaching her the secrets of the flame alchemy, right? I'm not even sure how any of that goes down, I'm not sure if the manga kind of goes into it a bit more in terms of consent and how it got to that stage that she got this whole tattoo on her back. But the one thing I know, or I truly feel, is that she was used essentially by her father, right? And that she was used as this blank canvas, essentially, to carry on the legacy of her father, right? Some could even say the sins of her father, maybe from certain perspectives. Yeah, I don't know, man. To me, it feels like she feels the death of all of these people, because at the end of the day, a major component of the devastation caused in Ishwal is through the Flame Alchemist, Roy Mustang, and through the Flame Alchemy that she facilitated. So that is some immense levels of guilt, isn't it? So you see that she certainly has no delusions of actually ever atoning for that. That's done, that's dusted, right? She made the choice, these things happened, and you see later on in this episode, she's seeing that flame alchemy being used once again by someone she cares for in a manner that is once again kind of facilitating this change of character, potentially, right? At the end of the day, it wasn't about stopping Mustang from killing Envy. It was more so about stopping Mustang from taking this turn. It was more so about stopping Mustang from Mustang. And the thing is, this choice that she made intrinsically links her to Roy Mustang, and everything that comes out of this flame alchemy and the flame alchemist, that is Roy Mustang. She feels the heft of it, right? She feels the responsibility for all of that death as well, because she ultimately facilitates it by passing on the flame alchemy. But you know, this concept of almost kind of reclaiming her body from this burden, I just really like that concept. Her asking Roy Mustang to deface and burn her back, or at least the tattoo portion of it. And they show me that in one of the episodes, right? She's in the shower and I see a good look at her back, or I get a good look at her back. And yeah, you know, you see the scarring for sure. And I do remember mentioning in my discussion for that episode that perhaps it was defaced enough that no one can actually make use of that research anymore. Maybe some crucial components of that research are scarred forever. Or another possibility is that Mustang just could not continue. It was too much for him. And the reason I do kind of mention that possibility as well is because of, you know, that moment that truly makes him realize, okay, I need to just gather myself. I need to collect my thoughts. And you see, you know, I mentioned that it's not the most subtle, but it's effective. You see the literal, you know, depiction of him tossing his anger and rage aside, you know, in one final explosion of his flame alchemy down that hall. But, you know, that being said, I think ultimately the turning point is Scar's take on this. Him kind of stepping in and giving his take, his opinion, as someone who has been down that path. And I'll come back to that aspect of it, right? That's one of the standout components of this, of course. You know, Ed and Hawkeye and Scar giving their takes on it. I mean, Hawkeye and Ed are a bit more personal, but Scar's is essentially the most poignant, right? The one that really snaps him out of it, given that he understands who this is and the things he's experienced and things that us, you know, the people of this country have inflicted upon him as well. Yet here he is. Look at him now. Yeah, you know, I'll come back to that because I think, you know, this cautionary tale of Scar is one of the best components of this for sure, right? And I love this. I love the person that Scar has become. But, you know, let's kind of circle back to my point about this other possibility that maybe he just was not able to scar or burn more of her back, right? Because he just couldn't make himself do it anymore, perhaps. You see her telling him, you know, if you are to die, or if, you know, I was to shoot you, because he's kind of asking about a hypothetical, right? And he posed the question, you know, what exactly do you plan on doing if this was to happen? If I was to be shot and out of the picture? She tells him, I really have no reason to continue, right? And that I do kind of plan on removing the dangers of the flame alchemy altogether. And to me, that kind of feels like, okay, there's enough of the research still there that she feels the need to remove it, right? That it's not gone forever just yet. And this isn't the first time they've hinted at this, her suicidal tendencies, or, you know, her being so okay with that outcome, that possibility, that path, right? It happened it was a long time ago. I was in that room recently, the big room. Lust died in that room. At that point in time, she was ready. She was ready to hang it up. And then, of course, in the next episode, or maybe even the episode after that one, she hears it, right? Mustang gets really quite angry upon finding out that she kind of gave up in that moment. She's ready to die because she thought Roy Mustang is gone out of the picture, right? So it's not new, right? The suicidal tendency, but it's more of a calm and collected tendency rather than a self-destructive one. I know that sounds kind of strange, but to me, it feels like this is something she has contemplated for a long, long time. I say that because of the phrasing, because she herself doesn't really look at it as killing herself, because to her, it's almost as if she's removing this evil that is a flame alchemy from the world altogether. And then, of course, Roy Mustang tells her, he cannot have that. He simply cannot have that. And the fact that he made her concerned again, or made her unhappy again, is something he deeply regrets in that moment and apologizes for as well, right? And at the end of the day, he needs her by his side. If he's going to be this benevolent leader, new leader of the country, he needs her. He knows this. He knows that if there's no Hawkeye by his side, it's just not going to happen, right? He's not going to be able to pull it off. She is a crucial component to all of this. The queen, right? But going back to Scar once again, imagine how Mustang and Hawkeye must be feeling in that moment. This man that they wronged, whose hatred and path of vengeance was kind of brought on by someone like Mustang alongside some of the other state alchemists, but Mustang played a crucial role in the death of many of the Ishvalans in that conflict. I mean, once upon a time, Scar was the person that represented the hatred, the grudges for the people that Mustang and his allies killed, right? So to have that man essentially kind of almost challenge Mustang to rise above and kind of, figure out the same things he figured out. Because here you have a person who was able to ultimately realize that his own personal vendetta and path of vengeance is not as important as the promise to restore Ishval, right? There's a lot of great parallels there, Mustang and Scar. But then also you see that Scar is given some beautiful dialogue, right? So impactful, coming from that character specifically. First of all, it felt really quite grounded and authentic and real as well. The fact that, it's not preachy. He admits, I have no right to stop any man from their vengeance if they feel they need to take it. His comment about, a country being ruled by someone who is captive to their own hatred. Ooh, Scar is spitting. The man is spitting. I mean, that really hits him like a jolt. Mustang, that is, to hear this coming from this man specifically. And also, let's not forget that if Mustang is to be the new leader of this country, it's something really quite important to Scar as well, because his newfound purpose, his newfound objective is to change the perception, to change this country as well. So for that reason, the leader, the man at the top, right, is really quite important to all of that. And that's Roy Mustang. So you see that it's also really kind of crucial to Scar as well. And he's getting a firsthand look at the type of individual this, potential future Führer could be. But let me kind of cut back to Hawkeye once again. This idea that she is intrinsically linked to Roy Mustang and the flame alchemy as well, because she passed it on, she facilitated it. I think, there is this idea that she feels responsible for Roy Mustang's actions as far as the flame alchemy goes as well. So beyond a lot of the other reasoning, I think another aspect of this is the fact that she feels the need to be by his side at all times because she feels responsible for some of his actions, right? For the flame alchemy and the use of it. And you see in this episode that it is being used in quite a selfish manner. That he's losing himself. He was just kind of gone for a moment. He was seeing red. He was lost to the raging fires of vengeance. And there's that moment, isn't there, as Hawkeye is looking on in horror, as Mustang unleashes the raging flames of hatred. It's this cacophony of unbridled rage. At one point, it almost kind of even felt like a performance, that he was really enjoying this, inflicting this type of pain and suffering. Kimberly would have been proud of that moment, right? This is the type of thing Kimberly always used to kind of relish. And listen, it looked incredible. It certainly did. The animation, once again, is just beautiful in this. The camera movement, like I said in the last episode's discussion, I'm sure I'll be getting a lot of Sakuga moments, stand-up moments, and it continues here. It's this beautiful shot as Hawkeye has a gun pointed at him, right? This time for real, as he himself told her to all that time ago. If you think I deviate from the path, or if I ever deviate from a path or the path, shoot me, right? He himself told her this. So I'm sure, once he kind of cools down, and he is in that stage now, he's going to appreciate that even more, that she had the courage. All of them had the courage. I mean, Scar doesn't need much courage to stand up to anyone, but Ed and Hawkeye, for them to stand their ground in that moment, that takes a lot of courage, given the fact that this man in front of them, this man they respect and adore, perhaps, is not seeing straight at the moment. And he is really quite frightening and unhinged in that moment. And, both of them dig deep and are brave in that situation because they do care about Roy Mustang. They do not want to see him go down that path because they know the type of person he can be. But listen, all that being said, I still maintain that, this isn't the difference between him being good or bad or anything. I think that ship has sailed a long time ago. Ultimately, I don't know if you can say if he is a good person, Roy Mustang, that is. He has done some stuff that you cannot take back. He has already kind of gone down that path. Yes, he's been trying to pay the price and atone for some of those actions, but ultimately, I don't think that's even an argument here. That, if he does this, he's not going to be a good person anymore. That's not the argument here, because that's a whole different thing altogether, isn't it? Now let's shift the focus to the outgoing sin in this episode, Envy. Oh my goodness. I mean, Roy Mustang said at one point that he wants to inflict the most painful and horrible death possible. He might not know it, but that actually might have been it. From Envy's perspective, that is the most horrible death possible. He just could not take it anymore. The pity and the semblance of empathy even at that point. The pathetic nature of it. It felt so pathetic to Envy to be in this position, right? I think Envy would have preferred if they actually, kind of gave in to all that rage and anger, or Mustang was allowed to kind of give into all of that. But you see that Envy does give it one last shot, one final attempt at kind of pitting these humans, these lowly, pathetic humans against each other, right? Because Envy's had this fine-tuned understanding and expectation, right? Fine-tuned from their perspective, his perspective, right? Flawed perspective in that sense, tunnel vision. In his opinion, or in his expectation of humanity, it's just this cycle of retaliation and hate, hate and kill and be killed, all of that. So, this notion of them ever potentially coming together, people that have so much reason to kind of resent each other, to hate each other, like some of the people that are present in the room. Envy's done the research. They know, or he knows just how to kind of try to get to them, but it's futile, and it makes the scene really uncomfortable, doesn't it, for us, the audience, and for these people as well, because they understand, right? And at that moment, they just have so much pity for this creature, the existence of this creature, right? And listen, I'm not going to speak for anyone else, but I had a lot of pity as well. Much like the last episode, it kind of continues into this episode. It's a really sad moment that this is the existence of this creature, this sin. But yeah, the idea of these humans putting their differences aside for a greater purpose just feels so baffling to Envy, right? I mean, they're having an absolute breakdown in that moment. And Ed makes his point about how people around us pick us up, right? That they always pick us up. And you see it on display. You see it on display. You know, Ed and Hawkeye and even Scar do that for Mustang in this episode. But who doesn't have that in this episode? Envy. And, you know, ultimately hearing that Envy is jealous of humans or humanity, it's the thing that stings most at that moment for Envy, isn't it? And, you know, you see that he hates that it's coming from Ed, who they actually do call by name. Final words are, bye-bye, Edward Alaric. How about that? Right? That, to me, it felt like a respectful moment that, you know, maybe by the end of it, it understands. I know I'm kind of switching all over the place. They, in my opinion, I think Envy does kind of understand a little bit of it, has some understanding of the shortcomings, essentially. I mean, you know, this hate that is fueled by jealousy is essentially emanating from his own shortcomings. I think there is a little bit of understanding for that. And I think there is this gesture right at the end, you know, that it is thanking, I did it again, he is thanking Ed, right? It felt like a respectful moment, right? That in its last moments, that is the person he chooses to kind of think of or thank. You know, you kind of go back to Gluttony's final moments. Gluttony's thinking of lust. So, you know, these final moments for the Sims feel like really significant moments to me, right? And how they choose to kind of spend those final moments, yeah, I think it's important. But yeah, I think that should do it for this one, folks. It's an incredible episode. It really is. It's an episode that I kind of have the urge to watch again immediately. And I'll probably do that. Maybe I'll grab a snack and put it on again. You know, it's only like 20 minutes, 22 minutes, 24 minutes maybe for this one, because it does kind of cut into the ending as well. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out. Maybe on the big screen, because, you know, a lot of the stuff I watch, I mean, it's a big screen. You know, don't get me wrong, it's a big, I think it's a 32-incher 4K monitor, but there's a much larger television set in the living room, right? So sometimes it does kind of feel a little bit different to kind of sit back on the couch and rewatch some of these episodes, right? I like to do that from time to time. Right then, so if you enjoyed that, consider dropping a like, consider dropping some comments, give me your thoughts. If you are interested in the next few episodes right now, or perhaps even full length, timer-based full length, of course, consider checking out the Patreon page and potentially supporting the channel. If you're interested, the links are in the description and the pinned comment. Right then, thank you so much for joining me, folks, and thank you for your time, because time is precious. And I do hope to see you again soon for episode 55, single digits. After that episode, just the 9, right? Yeah. Ooh. Oh man, bittersweet. Until then, take it easy.